Hi, I'm Greg Hunter, and this is the weekly news wrap-up for Friday, October 5th, 2012, coming to you from a farm in Missouri. First up, let's talk about the presidential debates. It looked like Mitt Romney won going away. Even places like CNN said two-thirds of the people that watched it said it looked like Mitt Romney won. A couple of real zingers there when Obama brought up the nearly $3 billion in tax breaks to oil and gas companies. Romney, boom, fired back and said, well, you gave $90 billion to green energy companies, and most of those are basically out of business or struggling to make a profit, and talked about how Obama was picking the losers. Woo! Romney also brought up the fact that, as a bipartisan, he had bipartisan support for his health care that Obama keeps coming after him about, and said, hey, I had a bunch of Democrats. I was a Republican governor with mostly a Democratic state, and we got health care done. And you and Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid just ramrodded it through, and it should have a much wider support and much more talked about and more agreement on what we're doing. I thought, I thought he won. Even people like James Carville, who's a big Democrat, said Romney came to the debate with a chainsaw. I think he's right. But, I want to talk about something else. I want to add here that Gary Johnson is a libertarian candidate, and he's on the ballot in all 50 states. Have you heard about him? Don't you think he should have been involved in the debates? I mean, he's on the ballot in all 50 states. This guy's a former governor of New Mexico. He's a businessman. He's a real guy. But, the mainstream media only wants a narrow little conversation, just the Democrats and the Republicans. Whoop, nobody else is even out there with any ideas. I think that's sad, and I think it's unfair. I'm not pitching or shilling for Gary Johnson. However, I think that with the way the country is going, all ideas ought to be heard by all the voters, and not just a narrow, bunch of topics and a narrow field of candidates, just two, Democrats and Republicans. There is a third-party candidate, and he's on the ballot in all 50 states. I think he should at least be invited to the debates so people can hear him. And I know people that say, well, he doesn't have a prayer to win. Well, of course he doesn't. He's set up that way not to have a prayer to win. You're supposed to think he doesn't have a prayer to win. Jesse Ventura, who became governor, in Minnesota, said, hey, listen, I have a prayer to win until the debates. And he became governor. Moving on to Syria, Syria shelled, mortared, some civilians, a town in Turkey. They apparently are refugees that fled the fighting to Turkey. They've been doing this according to the Turkish government. Well, Turkey fired back. Now, keep in mind, Turkey is a NATO country. All for one, one for all. I mean, listen, if Turkey gets into trouble, the U.S., France, Germany, Great Britain, they're all NATO countries. This is a big development. And, Syria said, oops, we're sorry, that won't happen again. Of course, yeah, Turkey's still firing away. And remember, the Syrians shot down a Turkish reconnaissance plane in June. This just goes to show you how this conflict in the Middle East is spreading. By all accounts, it's not shrinking, it's spreading. Tens of thousands of Syrians have been killed in the conflict. It's a bloody civil war, and it is not ending anytime soon. And now it is spilling into its neighboring countries. That's a very ominous development, in my humble opinion. Next up, we're talking about money printing. Another round of money printing quietly announced, in January coming up, that when they run out of the short-term debt that they're rolling into long-term debt, Operation Twist, as they say, there's $45 billion a month or so, and then you have the mortgage-backed securities, unlimited buying of that $40 billion a month, $85 billion a month? And if there's no end in sight, they're just going to keep on printing. And it's got people like Bill Gross, and you should listen to Bill Gross because he sits atop of one of the biggest bond funds in the world, $1.3 trillion under management. And he says, whoa, if they keep doing this, stocks and bonds will be not worth much. And things like gold and silver, and I suspect, oil and farmland and rare gems, diamonds, and other tangibles are about the only thing that's going to be investments worth having. He said the U.S. government is hooked on this debt like budgetary crystal meth. And this is a guy that's talking about buying gold and silver, and he's been doing it for a while, as well as people like Ray Dalio, George Soros, all buyers in the gold market. I think they're fearful for what's coming for the world. The world is printing to infinity. There's going to be a downside, and it's going to be an ugly one, especially for the little people like you and me. And finally, the crops, out here in Missouri where I am, let me get this here. We talked about corn already and how terrible the corn crop looked. Here's a bean crop. Thank goodness it's in one of my mother's fields. She has a farmer that's is a renter, and it's a 1/3, 2/3 type deal. Not bad, pretty good. Here's the roots. This is what it looks like. This is my mom's crop was planted at the right time, and it's got some rain. But other crops weren't planted at the right time, and so instead of it looking, like this, which is still, if you look at it, it's the bean pods aren't. The beans aren't huge if you look at it, and it's like this. They're usually a bit bigger than this. Okay, but this is not bad. Beans are $15, $16 a bushel, but some of the crops fields look like this. They look like this. I don't know exactly how much because we're not done harvesting yet, but the bean crop is going to be way down for next year. And if you haven't checked your ingredients of packages, soybeans are in a lot of things. Expect food prices to go way up just because of the drought, not because of the money printing. I think it's going to go up for that too. But food prices are going to go way up. That's the way I see it. I'm Greg Hunter. Thank you for supporting USAWatchdog.com.